Hey everybody, welcome back to Furniture Flipping Teacher. I'm Lauren and we're braving the cold on this one. I'm still in the works to get a heating system in my garage and a little bit of insulation on the door, etc. But there's no time to waste, so I'm out here. It's about 6 degrees here. Here's the little weather app for you, but we're doing it. I've got my next piece lined up and I cannot wait to show you what I have in store for this buffet. All right, first things first, as always, and that is to get the hardware removed. Now this video is sponsored by Craig, so you'll be seeing me use all Craig's tools. They actually just recently launched their Ionic Drive line of power tools, and let me tell you, it is one of the most user-friendly tool lines that I have seen in a long time. This is the Ionic drill. This is going to help me get all of the hardware off. I'm gonna go ahead and adjust the torque, and I'm gonna put it down to a 1 because when you're removing hardware, you don't need a ton of strength. And so 1 will help you remove that hardware super easily. I don't want to spoil my plans too much, but as you already saw by the title and the thumbnail of this video, I am going to be turning this buffet into a kitchen island. It's going to be on wheels. It's going to be really neat, and I think that this piece is going to be pretty much unrecognizable once I'm finished with it. Usually my next step would be to jump into the cleaning portion, but for this one, I want to take a pause on that and make sure that I remove all of the drawers, because I am going to be removing the top, or at least attempting to remove the top. I'm hoping that it's not going to be too difficult. Maybe it's just attached inside. So let's remove these drawers and see what we're working with as far as how the top is attached. Yeah, okay. Oh, I see. Okay, so it looks like there's just a few screws that are connecting the top. I'm not sure if this drill will get in there, but I do have a Craig right angle jig that will help me get into these screws, even though my drill won't quite go in there. So let's remove all these drawers and then see what we're working with. All right, I want to say I got most, if not all, of the screws I needed to undone. So let's see if there's anything still kind of holding us back from getting this top off. Whoa. Okay, here we go. It's like maybe in the back, because I don't think I took any screws out from the back. I'm not really seeing where it's attached in the back. There's like no holes like there was up front. So maybe I just keep ripping it off. I don't know. Oh my gosh, I just put a hole in the wall. Oh, I guess there was screws, but I don't see those holes. Oh, they're from the back. Oh well, I can still unscrew those, but we got the top off. Oh my gosh. Okay. Woo. Step 1 complete. So now that I've got the top off, I want to go ahead and flip it over so I can mess with the bottom and see what trim we're going to be taking off. So the goal, again, just like I did with the top, is to just find the screws to make it the easiest to actually detach the sides here. A lot of this is just decorative trim, but there is some of it that I'm going to be keeping, because my plan is to just put new trim on it so that it all looks like a cohesive look. Sometimes you'll want to get a little putty knife just to stick in to the cracks and then start to hammer that down. Ow. Don't hit your fingers. Seems like I just missed some screws, so that's why it's a little bit tricky. I think maybe the screws are in this to connect to this, or like this part, I don't know. That's already out, so yeah, not really sure how I would get those screws out. That'll be interesting, but one problem at a time. I do think I'm gonna take this trim off as well. Okay, so now I'm gonna move over to the other side and do pretty much the same thing. I went to Home Depot earlier today and I grabbed a panel of some shiplap looking material, and this is going to be for the back side of the island because it needs to look finished. And right now it's just a sheet of this board kind of, but it has staples poking out and it's not a very fun design. It's just kind of flat. So I thought, why not go ahead and put a design on it. So this is the shiplap. I need to cut it down to size, and I'm going to be using my Craig Rip Cut guide to do the job. I misspoke. I'm not going to use my Craig Rip Cut guide. That's this, and this is actually only allowed to cut up to 24 inches, and I need about a 27-inch piece cut from this. So I am going to set this aside, and I'm going to grab my circular saw and attach it to my AccuCut. This is going to allow me to cut a little bit of a longer piece, like this entire piece across, which is exactly what I need to do. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this attached, no battery in there, while I am attaching it to my AccuCut, and then I'll show you exactly how this thing gets to be used. So I'm gonna measure one last time how tall I need this cut to be. No, 27.5. So if I need it to be 27.5, that means I need to go ahead and measure out that distance here. Now I'm gonna go ahead and line up my circular saw and the AccuCut to this line, these 27.5-inch lines that I just cut, or that I just marked. And now when I attach my circular saw and the battery, I'll just be able to insert it into these tracks and then nice and slow follow the tracks along the AccuCut, and it will cut my panel right where I need it to be cut. So let's pop that battery in there. Make sure everything is still nice and lined up. Got my safety glasses on and also my hair pinned up, along with no loose clothing. So here we go. There we go. That is my first piece. And unfortunately, my piece is longer than 4 feet, so I'm gonna need another like 7 inches of board, but I'm going to need it like going this direction. So I'm gonna need to cut another 27.5-inch piece, and then I'm gonna need to cut 7 inches off of that piece, if that makes any sense at all. Okay, stick with me here. This might get a little confusing, but if I explain it correctly, I think you'll be able to follow along. So like I said, this one piece is not gonna be wide enough for the entire back, so I need 7 more inches. This is shiplap, and these are about 4.5-ish inches in width, each piece of like shiplap. And so basically, if I cut a 7.5-inch piece or a 7-inch piece, we're going to go right in the middle of a piece of shiplap, and then on one side, there's going to just be like a smaller piece of shiplap, which is fine, but then it just won't look cohesive enough in my opinion. So what my plan is, my thinking is that I am going to cut 2 3.5-inch pieces off of each side of this piece of paneling, and then I'll put 2 3.5-inch pieces on each side, and then the long cohesive 48-inch piece in the middle. So needless to say, I need to cut 2 3.5-inch pieces with my AccuCut and my circular saw, just like I did. I could use my rip cut now if I wanted to, but I'm kind of grooving with this AccuCut, so no need to switch it out. I just need to go ahead and turn this, mark out my 3.5 inches, and then cut. We got 1. Now I'm gonna flip my piece so that I still have a full piece of shiplap over on this side. So now we've got 2 matching exact 3.5-inch pieces that will go onto the back of this. Let's flip this over, rip off the current back, and tack on this new one. So I'm gonna go ahead and replace this guy with the new board. So I need to pop this off. I'm just gonna use a screwdriver to get underneath, and then it should pretty much pop off super easily. I'm gonna go ahead and do the 3.5-inch pieces first. And I'm gonna do the cut side. I believe it would make the most sense to do the cut side on the outside, but I'm gonna just dry fit first, make sure that it looks good with the 48-inch piece in the middle, and we'll go from there. These are designed to fit together, so it makes sense that the outsides would go together. I'm literally like an 1/8 of an inch off. Too big, so that's at least good. Yeah, this is gonna be perfect. It's literally negligible how off I am, like crazy. Maybe I can shove it in there. So I didn't end up cutting anything. I think once I start to nail them down, I'll be able to just kind of shove it together, if you will, because it should not be too big. All of my measurements are perfect, of course. But I'm gonna go ahead and use my nail gun to just get some of these in. I've got 5/8 inch nails, and we're just gonna start tacking them on. Now time to add the baseboards, or like the bottom trim that I'm going to be putting on these pieces, on this piece, and I wanted to wrap around flawlessly throughout all 4 sides. So I'm going to go ahead and measure for my first cut. I think I'm going to do mitered edges, and that way they fit together really well. So I kind of have to be like really precise. So this is 55 5/16. All right, let's do it. Okay, I think I did a pretty good job with the mitered corners, but we'll see. I'm gonna go ahead and attach these on, and I do think I'm gonna have to run back to Home Depot because I thought I had some trim that could cover this little gap that there's gonna be, but unfortunately I don't. And so I'm gonna have to grab some like quarter round that'll work there. That's okay though. I love making trips to Home Depot, if you know what I mean. All right, so I'm just gonna make sure that this is lined up on both sides. Okay, and then I'm gonna go ahead and do the side piece here. Anything that doesn't line up perfectly, I'll just kind of caulk and fill in. Okay, last night I decided to go ahead and put up my DIY garage door insulation kit, and I am telling you, it's already a world of difference warmer in here. It's not fully warm like I want it to be. I'm still thinking about getting a mini split in here. That way in the summer I can have AC and in the winter I can have heat, but that is a new addition to the garage that I did, and I'll link it down below for you in case you're interested in like heating up your garage a little bit. I've just got 2 space heaters. Like I said, not the warmest in here just yet, but it's getting there and it's keeping the heat in for sure. But anyway, back to the project. Like you saw, I got everything nice and sealed up as far as the trim on the baseboards go. So now we're kind of ready to move on, and I got some really neat wheels that I'm gonna put this on. And so before I flip it over and get ready to like clean it up and scuff sand and prime, I wanted to put these wheels on it so that way like it's kind of elevated off the ground just a little bit. So what I need to do is some pilot holes, and then we'll screw these in and flip it over, and we'll see what they look like. They're really pretty like antique brass on the bottom here, so I think they're perfect. The first thing I'm gonna do is just mark where the pilot holes need to go on each corner, and it's perfect because I have these legs that are going to be the exact distance that I kind of wanted from the front to the back of each leg. Like I don't want it to be right here on the edge. I wanted it to be a little bit inside, so that's kind of why I kept those legs as well. So now I'm just gonna go ahead and mark. I think it'll be okay on this piece and not fully on here, because we still want to be able to do the brakes. So I think that still gives me enough room to like trigger the brakes. Yeah. All right. I got the wheels on and it is so good. Look at it, I love it. This is so perfect. It's not wobbly, nothing. Okay, so now the next step is we are going to make the top out of this new piece of plywood. I had it in my scraps, so it's almost the perfect size, but I do need to cut it down a bit. And originally I wanted to have like a pretty long overhang over here to potentially have it be able to like, you know, have benches or like seating, but I decided against that, and I'm just going to use this guy, and we're gonna have about an inch overhang over the entire piece. So I'm gonna be cutting it 57.5 inches long and 19.5 inches wide. So I'm gonna grab out my AccuCut again, and we're gonna go ahead and cut that down to size and get it attached, I think. Or I might wait to attach it until after I'm all done painting and things like that, just because then I don't have to tape it off. All right, I got this cut. I love that AccuCut. I think even better than I love the Rip Cut guide, but the AccuCut is very, very good. It really makes me feel like I have a table saw because I can do such long, straight cuts. So this is gonna be the new top, like I said, but don't worry, it's not gonna look like plywood once I'm done with it. I'm actually gonna be using the Craig router in a little bit to get it routered and make it look really nice. And then we're gonna make it look like real wood as well. So that's gonna be a future project, or like a future little deal in this video, but I think it is absolutely perfect. It'll just give it a fun detail. And yeah, and then I'm gonna need to do some trim around the edge as well. So that is, you know, I'm kind of like, the more I'm thinking about it, the more I maybe need to actually attach this so that I can caulk and trim around it. And then I'll have to just mask it off when I'm painting and stuff, but that'll be okay. It's just a little extra step, but not really too big of a deal. And I think that that will give me like a better finished result, and I won't have to do any touch-up paint and stuff. So I think my next step now then is to go ahead and get some trim. I'm thinking about using, no wait, that was for the bottom. Let me see, I might have some trim from like what it was looking like before, but I don't know if it's gonna work. The thing is, this is only 3 sides, so the third side trim would be different, which I don't think is a huge deal, because honestly, you're not even gonna be able to see it very much. But if I did this, ooh, that might stick out too far actually. It would look like that, which honestly looks really good. But then, like I said, the back trim would be different. Or we don't even, I mean, yeah, I would like to do trim on the back, but I could match the back trim to the bottom trim. I'm just thinking this out. I don't know. Or maybe on the back side, I don't even need to do trim and I just caulk it, make it look seamless, and then it just has this. Maybe I'll do that. I think I just solved my issue. All right. So basically, I guess what I need to do is get this all attached, caulk the seams, put this on. I think I'm gonna be able to use the same screws that I used, or that like the first top was attached on with. But then it's like, why don't I just use the top that originally came with it? Let's see what that looks like. I'm all over the place. I will say I did modify the back a little bit, so I don't know if that original top will fit. Okay, so using the new top, or the old top, to me, it takes away a couple of steps. It takes away like the fact that I don't have to do the router, and then I can actually have like a real wood. Well, really the outside is real wood and this is veneer. I can see when I have it lifted up, but I could just be really careful with the top when I'm sanding it down, because I think it would be really pretty as a wood look. I think I'm gonna do that. And I know you'll probably say, well, why'd you take the top off in the first place? I know, but my ideas change, you know, ebbs and flows. And then I can still caulk this. The only difference I think will be that the back won't really have an overhang or really like match the front. But I don't think that that's horrible. I think just the fact that I have it like finished on the back in general is kind of what matters most. So I can still caulk this, get it all in there right. I think that's what we're gonna do. Let's do it. Let's put this back on. So I've got a plan now. I'm gonna go ahead and strip the top because like I said, this middle section is veneer and I wanna sand it down, but I don't wanna go through the veneer. So I'm gonna strip it to just not have to sand as hard as much. So I'm gonna be using the Green Easy stripper. It says don't apply it in less than 40 degrees and I'm pretty sure it's warmer than 40 degrees out here. It's like still a little chilly, but I think I can manage with this. So let's get this applied. This is a more eco-friendly stripper. So no really like mask or anything like that needed. I'm gonna go ahead and put my glasses on just so it doesn't splash up in my eyeballs. But other than that, I'm just gonna pour it on, spread it out, and then this does need to sit for, like depending on what you are like stripping, probably around an hour or two. So I'll come back and check it out in about an hour. There we go. So in about an hour, I'll come back, check it, and see if it's ready to be scraped off. And then we'll go from there. I figured while this was kind of activating and doing its thing that I can go ahead and start cleaning the remainder. So I'm gonna start with these drawers. I've got a new cleaner. I've seen a couple other people use this and I just wanted to try it. It's called Gear Hugger. It's eco-friendly, non-toxic, but it's a heavy duty degreaser. So I'll link it down below as well, but it looks pretty cool too. It's in a bottle, kind of like bug spray, if you will. This is a cleaner that needs to be rinsed, so I just wet my paper towel and then I'm just gonna go ahead and rinse it off. So we'll see if I buy it again. I don't know. I really like the ones that you don't have to rinse off, but I don't know, trying new things. Perfect. Now I'm gonna clean the body of the piece. I did a little test piece over here. It's been a little more than an hour and it looks like it's gonna scrape off just fine. So, and it's also not gonna be like too goopy, which I really like. So I'm just gonna go to town, scraping this off, and then we'll clean it up and get to sanding after it dries out. You may not see too much of a difference when I am scraping off this stripper, but it's basically removing the layer of varnish that's on top. It's not really gonna change the color too much. Sometimes it will. It really just kind of depends on like the wood and the stain that was used and a whole bunch of different factors. But if you're not seeing like a huge color change, that doesn't mean that it's not working. When you're using a metal scraper, also, you don't want to go too deep. You just want to stay on the surface of the piece because you don't want to make any gouges. Finally, I'm able to start getting some actual product on this piece. So I am going to neutralize that orangey yellow tone that a lot of the time comes on oak furniture. And I am going to use a gel stain. It's called Au Naturel by Dixie Belle. And this is a water-based gel stain that will kind of act as a paint wash because of the color of it. But it will just really help even out those yellow tones, like I said. So what I like to do is just apply a bit of water with my mister bottle. And then we'll go in with the stain and this blue sponge. So we'll mist the blue sponge a little bit as well. Get that going. And then if it doesn't, sometimes these get pretty clogged. So a lot of the times I have to kind of just take the whole lid off and work from there. Dab a little bit on the sponge, or you could put it directly on the piece, totally up to you. And then we'll just kind of go along the wood grain as much as possible, and we'll just rub it in, adding more water if needed. And then I am going to go in and just even everything out with the paper towel or lint-free cloth and just wipe back any excess. This is especially the part where you want to go in the direction of the wood grain. So as you'll see, I'm going back and forth in the main portion, and then on the sides going side to side. Perfect. So now once this dries, we'll be able to top coat it, but I'm also going to wait to top coat this because I want to top coat the whole thing. Since it's going to be in the kitchen, I just want to get it ready for like in case there's a lot of traffic on it, especially on the top, but even around it as well. So I'll do a layer of top coat after, but once this dries, I am going to go ahead and wrap it up and we'll be able to start priming and painting the body of the piece. I'm so excited to finally get a move on this piece. All right, the top is all dry now from the stripper. So I am gonna take a 120 grit paper on my Craig orbital sander here, and I'm going to just make sure that I've got all the remnants of that old finish and just smooth everything out and prep it for the stain that I'm gonna put on the top. Okay, it is time to get some primer on the island. We're getting a little bit of electric work done. So if you see somebody back there, that's John. He's installing some electricity for me in the garage, but I am going to go ahead and get the primer coat on. I have to do all 4 sides plus the drawers, and since I'm not painting the top, I just put the drawers on the top, doors on the top, so that I can just spray them as I go along. And I'm using the classic bin advanced primer that I pretty much always use. This is my go-to. I've got the sprayer out. This is definitely a temporary setup, but we'll get her done. Okay, I'm ready to spray on the first coat of paint. I've got my paint sprayer all loaded up, and the color is called Cozy Latte. It's like a neutral color, so kind of like a tannish beige, but a lighter on the side of the lighter. So I'm excited to see what this looks like going on. Let's get this sprayed on. Kind of racing against the light here. I want to get this top coat on. This is like the last nice day in a few days, and I really want to finish this piece today. So I am going to go ahead and get this top coat on. Everything is nice and dry. As you saw, I took everything, all the plastic off, and I put the drawers and doors back in, and this piece is looking really good. So after the top coat, I'll be able to put the hardware on, and then we'll be good to go. And I do know earlier, I think I mentioned that I was going to do a top coat over the entire thing, but then I ended up using paint that had a top coat in it, so it should be good to go. But I will do one more top coat on the top here once this dries, just to make sure it's ultra protected, since like I said, it's ideally going to be used in a kitchen or as some type of like bar cart island thing. So we'll let that dry real quick, and then I'll do probably the coat off camera, and then it's time for some hardware. I am on the last step. I cannot believe it. This is amazing. I found some hardware that I had picked up actually at a thrift store for $3.99 for 10 of them. So that really cuts down on my costs, especially because I kind of did spend a little bit extra money, like with the new wood base and the backer board and the wheels. So I am going to go with this pretty oil rubbed bronze hardware, and I think it really pairs well with the feet or the wheels as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this on, and then we'll get this thing staged and show the final result. All right, here is the final result of this piece of furniture. It went from just a normal oak buffet, didn't really have anything wrong with it, except it was a little bit outdated, especially toward the bottom. We got rid of that trim. We turned it into a future kitchen island. I love the way that this turned out. Even if you just wanted to push it up against the wall, this piece of furniture is very, very pretty, but I love the fact that it's movable. This could totally still act as a buffet, but then still have the option to be like moved for cleaning or moved around for parties, things like that. My original vision was to, have this be for someone maybe in a smaller home or something like that, which it still could totally be. But now I'm kind of envisioning it in like a larger home and, like I said, like a movable buffet or even like a bar cart. There's plenty of good storage in here. I'm really pleased with the way that this turned out. As always, we've got to talk about the numbers of this piece. So I got the piece for $50. I believe it was at a thrift store, and all of the wood trim and the quarter round and the backer board cost me around $85 total. Of course, there's some excess, but that will be for another project. And then the wheels cost $15. Not too bad. I feel like I found a really good deal on Amazon. I'll link those down below. And then the paint was $20, primer $10, top coat $5. Hardware, like I said, I got that at the thrift store, so that was a major save because there's 9 knobs. Those can add up pretty quick, so always be on the lookout when you're looking for furniture for good modern hardware for your pieces to save some money. That's $5 in. And then miscellaneous costs, of course, we've got to count sandpaper, tape, plastic, things like that. That's a $10 add-on. So we're in all the way for $200, which honestly, I thought I was going to be way over budget. I know it took a lot longer than I wanted it to, but part of that was because I was kind of like working a day, not working a day because of the cold and the weather, and me still trying to get this whole garage set up to how I want it to be. You can kind of see my new electric panel back there. Surprise, surprise, this garage did not have any outlets besides the ones behind me, but that one didn't work. So the only working electricity was above me on the ceiling, but I kind of need some outlets to run my business and to like charge things and plug my paint sprayer in. So John got that all fixed up for me, but that's besides the point. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments of this kitchen island project. Like I said, this is a really neat piece. I had kind of a vision, but of course I'm flexible and I moved with the groove and went with the flow. And this is what we ended up with. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope it inspires you to maybe turn an outdated piece into something more modern and even more functional for your own home, or even to sell on Facebook Marketplace for a profit. Thank you guys so much for watching. I am going to be back next Thursday with a project that you don't want to miss. It's going to be my very first in-home project for our new house. So get subscribed down below and click that bell notification because you're going to want to see it the minute it drops. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the flip side.